Chapter 11. The Flowers of Zealand. In a flash, we were through the cosmos and standing in formation atop a massive mountain much bigger than the last one. It was entirely covered with enchanting, fragrant flowers, very enticing. They were of many varieties, from the tiniest of wild flowers to giant cannas and lilies, spanning the mountainside as far as the eye could see. Below, we saw cities all around the base and valleys of this flowery mountain. "Do not be deceived by the sweet smell of the bloom," Jesus spoke as he produced a large antique iron key on a thick leather strip and tied it around Jade's neck. He stared into Cameron's eyes, and scales fell off of them, flaking around Jade's hoofs. He had received yet another higher level of vision. The entire army received this new sight as we heard the sigh of the bracts slipping to the ground. Clearly, each new war and its aftermath of rest brought sharper vision. We all looked again at the flowers. We could now see deep in the ground and inside the roots of the flowers, black and rotten. The beauty was only a disguise. Hidden inside were sinister, odorous spirits, swimming and waiting. Streams of young people walked around at the base of the mountain like lines of robots. They were extremely focused, intelligent, and pleasant. At first sight, they had an attractiveness, like the flowers, that made you want to be with them and touch them, breathing in their fragrance. But with our new sight, we could see that these young adults were filled with the same darkness as the roots of the flowers, brewing clouds swirling in their lungs and midsections. The darkness gave off the feeling of old, ugly patience. "This is America's Zealand, the Prince of Polity's United States encampment sent to steal our youth," Cameron said. "He has made them believe he loves them through the use of false discipline and warped purpose. They have been utterly deceived. One of the highest forms of iniquity is for another religion to dishonor the one true God and his Son, Jesus. We will see how we can help bring honor back to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We have been given another key." He pointed to Jade's neck where the key hung swaying. I knew it was the key to this mountain stronghold. "Another stronghold key. Shall we find the manhole and go in?" I asked. "Remember, it may not be the same way twice. Things are never what they seem in the enemy's plans and schemes. We wait." He continued on, quoting from the great book. "I have taught you in the way of skillful and godly wisdom, which is comprehensive insight into the ways and purposes of God. I have led you in paths of uprightness. When you walk, your steps shall not be hampered. Your path will be clear and open, and when you run, you shall not stumble. Take firm hold of instruction. Do not let go. Guard her, for she is your life. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it. Do not go on it. Turn from it and pass on. For they cannot sleep unless they have caused trouble or vexation. Their sleep is taken away unless they have caused someone to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence." Jesus' arm swept the mountainscape, motioning for us to move out. Cameron was right. Our instructions were to head down on the outside of this stronghold in clear view. I was glad we had waited. We girded ourselves and headed right through the flowers. As we started down, Jesus and his horse reared up in a blazing inferno and burned a trail into the sky above us. We could feel his presence as it spread out and made a canopy of protection above us, blocking us from the Prince of Polity's stealth observation. No dark sight could penetrate Jesus' shield, but it was not yet time for the prince to be destroyed. Many of his captives must first be set free. This was our mission. Jade and Spirit began stomping haphazardly and jostling us in our saddles, almost throwing us off. The same was happening to the soldiers spread out around us. I sensed the fronds on my sword growing, an indication of a coming battle. We looked down to see very small demons rising up out of the flowers, chomping and grabbing at our horses' ankles. I sounded my trumpet. The battle had begun. Thousands of demons came up from the blossoms, in addition to the tiny ones that led the rising. Two types were prominent. One was a hideous, squatting animal, full of hate, greed, and perversion. He had a small, fat body, but huge hind legs like a kangaroo, and could jump 20 feet in the air easily. This type carried gardening tools, shaped into lethal weapons of torture, and knew how to use them. The other type was a tall, dark, shadowy spirit of an intelligence and speed we had not yet encountered. It came up out of the tallest flowers and spun itself into a tornado before it attacked. There were so many of these tornadoes. Some held swords straight out of the vortex that stabbed and sliced at our men. Others had long spikes on the top of their helmets and drilled their way into the ranks of our soldiers. For the first time, we lost some of our soldiers in battle. Still, we all fought with fearlessness, brandishing our weapons with newly discovered speed. We grew faster and stronger with each demon we killed. I was in a blur of onslaught when I was knocked off spirit and dropped my sword. My helmet slammed shut immediately. I grabbed it off my head and instinctively began to swing it in a great circle around me. It had a power all its own. I killed hundreds this way. This success brought new resolve, and I spun in a circle dance for at least an hour, splaying the flower demons in all directions. I realized my welder's helmet of salvation was no match for the demons. I stopped spinning, drew my knife, and fought on. I could throw it out to cut through several demons at a time, and it would boomerang back. I took notice of the other soldiers as they engaged. They too were finding more power in their armor than they had in previous battles. Some worked together to lasso hundreds with their belts and then used their buckles to smash skulls into smithereens. Others lay on their backs, using their powerful shoes to kick the demons into oblivion. No beast could make it through these good news shoes. I saw a group of soldiers holding up their shields at just the right angle to catch the light and send piercing shafts through evil packs of brutes that had already been lassoed by the others with their belts. They were charred black and crumbled to the ground. The beams of light came from the eyes of Jesus, who was still above us, blinding the prince of this war. In the throng of the battle, our soldiers began to teach each other the new things they were learning with their armor. This saved a lot of energy as they worked together in unity with much wisdom, pushing forward through the domain of endless vile flowers. Still, we were losing more of our soldiers, and the flowers were not decreasing. I looked over at Cameron, who was now standing in the middle of hundreds of rousing flowers. With one hand he sliced with his sword, and with the other he shot his gun through 6 or 7 at a time. As I watched him, I lost my focus. He spotted me and shouted, "Watch out behind you!" A jumper demon in midair was about to land on my back. I heard a shot, and it fell dead on top of me, pinning me in a disgusting stench. It was heavier than it looked. Spirit kicked the thing off of me. I had another revelation. The weight of evil perversion was heavy in the opposite way that the weight of God's glory was heavy. The righteousness and never-ending loving kindness of God's glory made it light. God's heavy lightness. That is what we are called to live in, not the heavy depression of darkness and hopelessness. There is no lightness in that. Cameron and I gave each other a look that admitted we were sorely outnumbered. There would be no end to the evil spirits rising up from the endless sea of flowers spread out around the entire mountain. Our soldiers still fought with full hearts, yet we could see weariness setting in and more dying. Just as Cameron was signaling for me to blow the retreat blast From my shofar, we heard a loud humming sound approaching. The entire battle stopped for a split second as we all saw an amazing sight. An entire battalion of angels on lawnmowers was coming up the mountain on every side. It was our friends, the worker angels. A great roaring cheer rose up from the army as the angels began to literally mow down the evil flowers, thousands at a time. They cleared away many gardens as they cut their paths toward us. When they reached the areas where we were making our stand, they turned and began to lead the way, advancing before us and easily cutting down more demons in their supercharged machines. The tornado demons could not get away and were sucked under the great machines and chewed up. We noticed other angels riding on lawnmowers, carrying different types of flowers. These angels spun off of the mowers, spraying petals from their hands. Petals from their flowers were raining down on the demons and slaughtering hundreds at a time. We had our own fragrant tornadoes. We surged forward behind our lawnmower cavalry. They made the way much faster as we quickly gained the advantage until we found ourselves at the bottom of the stronghold, spread out along the base of the mountain. Cameron and I and our team were greeted by troops of flower angels. They were waiting for us with huge bouquets of fresh-cut flowers exuding a familiar fragrance. "We are the angels of Whirl," they said in unison as they passed out bouquets. A little girl stepped out from behind one of the angels holding a jeweled box. "You!" I exclaimed. "Hello!" It was the young girl to whom Jesus had given his priceless box of the fragrance of Christ. A lovely willowy angel stepped forward. She was directed to us in a dream by a lion cub. We have been releasing the fragrance from the box into our own fields of flowers that we have prepared for this time. Now they are ready to be given to the young people who have been trapped by the flowers of Zealand. Shadow looked at the angel and at me, smiling. I went to the girl and hugged her tightly. "Thank you. We are honored that you have obeyed and brought this to us. What is your name?" "Yaraei," she said, with a shy yet intelligent smile. Cameron spoke. "We will not need our old weapons for this part of the battle. Our weapon will be the fragrance of Christ's life and love in our hearts. We will not go into the heart of the mountain at this time. We will take the flowers into the city. We will be like the nurses." My heart skipped a beat. I would now have the honor of becoming like the very ones I had previously judged. Thank God for his forgiveness. The angels continued passing out bundles of flowers which were alive with radiating fragrance. The swirling aroma woke us up and gave us fresh energy. We all dismounted and headed out in different directions on foot, carrying our flowers. Yaraei, Shadow, Cameron, and I went out together. The mountain loomed in the background as we headed into the cities. Our armies were coming in from every side of the mountain base. They were greeted with bouquets by many more angels of Whirl, and then headed into the cities with their sweet-smelling assignments. I blew a blast of victory, followed by a call to passion, and I sang, "Passion of Christ, emitting great drifts. Life in the shadows, be filled with this lift. Light of the fragrant sacrifice, glide your way through the night, glide your way through the night. Love of loves, perfume from above, death in the cities, breathe into your sleep, eternal aroma to save. Take in the flora, rise up, take in the flora, rise up, into the life of Christ.